Welcome back, everybody, to These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. Lorenzo sitting here with
Kevin Horde. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. Today we're going to be talking Legacy of Terror. Yeah?
Yeah, part 4 of 5 of, I don't even know what we need to call this 5-parter. I guess the Geonosian pentology?
Something like that, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, just go with that.
It's the penultimate Geonosian pentology episode.
Yes. This one pretty much seems to be picking up shortly after the last one, Weapons Factory, yeah?
Yeah, I would say immediately after, actually.
Yeah, because we even, so the newsreel basically covers the previously on situation, yeah?
Yep.
And then they kind of just set up the new goal, which is capturing Pago the Lesser, which has basically been the goal for the last couple episodes anyways.
Yeah, it's definitely explicitly said we're going to capture PTL, but do you want to jump back to the fortune cookie?
Oh, duh. That's right. Sorry, my mind is jumping all over the place today.
It's all good.
Yeah, so this one, I forgot all about that. We got an air date of November 20th, 2009. This is Season 2, Episode 7 here.
Yep.
We got a director of Stuart Lee. The writers are listed as Egan Mahoney? Mahoney? Right? How do you pronounce his first name?
Eogan?
Or her?
I don't know.
His, her? Yeah, it's Eoghan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Drew Z. Greenberg and Brian Larson.
Yep.
So, and then the fortune cookie for this one is, sometimes accepting help is harder than offering it.
I got Qui-Gon this week. What do you think about that?
I was thinking that or Obi-Wan. I could hear either of them saying it for sure.
I thought the same thing. I was like, maybe Obi-Wan, and then I was like, this seems one step deeper. Like this is Obi-Wan reiterating something that Qui-Gon taught him. So then I just took it that one step back. It definitely seems like something that Qui-Gon's going to instill in his Padawan, and then that Padawan is going to continue with that philosophy from there. One tidbit that means nothing, but is worth bringing up. The production number on this is 209, and viewership for this is also 2.09. So
very nice.
That actually happened last week. The last 2 weeks, Landing at Point Rain was 207 and had 2.07 million viewers. Weapons Factory was 208 and it had 2.08 million viewers. This is 209. It's got 2.09 million viewers. So we'll see if that trend continues.
Yeah, interesting that it's slowly going up, too, in viewership.
Little by little.
Yeah, because there was like a break in between a couple of these episodes, weren't there? Like a week or two off or something like that at some point?
No. From Senate Spy to Landing at Point Rain, yes.
Okay.
But from Landing at Point Rain... Landing at Point Rain, Weapons Factory, Legacy of Terror were week to week to week. And then there's another jump from Legacy of Terror to Brain Invaders. There's a jump as well.
And that makes sense because it would be the Thanksgiving holiday right?
Yep.
Yeah, so taking a week off makes sense there since everybody's busy being with family, eating turkey, shopping, probably getting a jump start on that.
How big was Black Friday shopping in 2009?
I feel like it was pretty massive still.
Yeah.
Like, if anything, I feel like nowadays it's like in terms of financial economy spent, I feel like it's gone up year over year.
Okay.
But I think the difference is in the last 8 years, the shift from waiting in line at Best Buy or Target or Walmart has shifted into a fuck that noise Amazon's got something similar.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let me rephrase my question and say, how big was online Black Friday shopping in 2009?
Yeah, I feel like back then it was. I don't think there was like a tipping point where there was more spent online than there was in brick and mortar store. But I couldn't give you exactly when that was. I would just be guessing.
Yeah, because the whole Black Friday shopping deal, shopping experience, I guess we should say, escalated, and then it like hit. There was a tipping point, and then there was those diehard people in their probably 40s that were like, I've been doing this for 20 years, I'm still doing it, and there wasn't the draw at the brick and mortar store, as you said, and all of a sudden online became a thing. But isn't so? Yeah. There's Black Friday and what, Cyber Saturday?
Cyber Monday.
Cyber Monday.
Yeah, so you get the weekend, then Cyber Monday hits. There's also one other major factor that has to be accounted for.
Uber?
No.
Lyft?
I feel like back in 2009, Black Friday was still on Friday.
Okay, I gotcha.
See what I'm saying?
It didn't move to Thursday and then Wednesday.
Right.
And then...
Now it's like Thursday at like 4 p.m., you know, like right when the turkey's coming out. Like, so even for me, like back in 2009, I was a pretty diehard Black Friday shopper, but that's because I could have family dinner and then go wait in line at like midnight for a 6 a.m. opening on Black Friday.
Right.
You know? So I would spend out like overnight outside of like a Best Buy or whatever. And that was fine. But there's no way in hell I'm going to go start waiting like Wednesday night, Thursday morning, kill my entire holiday, you know, and then go be at Best Buy at 4 p.m. on Thursday.
We'll get back to the newsreel. You had talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, so
I've got 5 notes on it.
Go for it.
1, narrator calls it victory. 2, he says key weapons factories, plural, have been destroyed. 3, number 2 went to 2 different lines in my notes, so there's actually only 4. 4, Obi-Wan and Luminara are on the cleanup. 5, they explicitly say the point of their mission currently is to find Mr. PTL. So, this episode officially starts with Ahsoka and Barasafi leaving for some R&R. Ahsoka apologizes to probably Rex, I don't know, a clone trooper, and she's like, oh, sorry, we gotta go. And he's like, no, you need your rest, you did enough, see you later. The Lats leave. Luminara's on like this outcropping, kind of looking over, I guess, the battle site. It's kind of indeterminate.
Yeah. Like they're near something, like,
and there's like shit smoking in the distance.
Yeah, because this is around like it's probably just like the staging area still, because they're like carting away injured clone troopers and all that around here. More boxes are being moved essentially too. Like
there's definitely boxes. Speaking of boxes, I forgot to bring it up 2 episodes ago, like in the midst of this fucking battle, and there was like an aerial battle, and like people were landing looking for the square and shit. There's Lats crashing. Like nobody lands, everybody crashes. There's fucking just like a neat stack of boxes, like cloned boxes on the ground with the little either circle or octagonal thing.
Yeah. I noticed some of those boxes around too, yeah.
So,
yep, just boxes everywhere.
Anyway, Lumi and Obi discuss PTL. Luminara's like, basically says like he's got too much information, so we have to find him and capture him. And then I don't know. She makes.
So she just, yeah. So basically, she just gets on a speeder. Yeah, she jumps on a speeder, rides off. Obi-Wan is like, yeah, that's cool. We get a cut to Poggle. He's on a little transport thingy, and he's dragging a bunch of crates behind him.
Pulling a bunch of boxes.
Yeah, pulling a bunch of boxes via tractor beams, which I found interesting. And
I think we saw this before. Didn't we see this with the pirates and
I'm sure we have,
Dooku
but
or something.
It's still just a weird way to transport stuff. I just feel like it'd be easier to have some sort of like tow, right? Like an actual
cable.
Second. They're like, no, not a cable, just like, you know, like a trailer of some sort, and then you put your shit in the trailer and have one thing towing it, right?
So you would need a stronger laser beam because like the mini laser beams can like pull so much, but then if you put all that shit on a trailer, then you need a stronger beam to pull all of it at one time,
I guess.
And as we see, one of these things breaks away. And
no, one does not break away. This is what confused me too.
Okay.
There is a box sitting on the side of the ship, just sitting there, not attached to anything. A droid bumps into it, kicks it off the transport, and it falls and rolls behind.
Really?
Yes.
I thought there was like, there was like 8 boxes, and there was like 4 on each side because there's like dual laser beam towing things, and I thought one of them, like the last one on the left side, like broke loose.
There are 8 on the beams, and so then after the box falls off, there are still 8. Because at first I was looking down while taking a note, and I saw the box come off, but then I saw that there were still 8 because one of the droids go, "Hey, one of the boxes fell," and Poggle does his clicking and grunting and humming noises, and the droid is like, I guess we're not gonna worry about that one, and they keep going, and I noticed that there are still 8.
You know, last week you did such an excellent rendition of PTL.
See, this time he's more like
So I just rewatched it, and you are totally correct.
Yeah, it's just sitting on the side of the thing, and I don't know why. And it's not like, it'd be fine if it was like tied to something, but it's just sitting there, and it's not even like on a level bed.
You know what was of the thing? No, it's on like the shoulder of the fucking droid tank. But you know what? Right. You know what was in this box?
I don't recall.
Convenience.
Right. Well, yeah. So the box falls off. We'll get back to this box later. So we get now that we spent 30 minutes talking about St. Louis and various racism.
We might have to try and speed through this shit out, but we'll see.
It's fine. We'll speed through on this. So we cut to Obi-Wan and
Kiadi.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Obi is surprised that Mundy is here because the last, I guess, Obi-Wan saw of him, like Mundy was kind of beat up a little bit.
Right.
But honestly, like the last that we saw, or I guess 2 episodes of what we saw of Obi-Wan, like he was beat the fuck down, ready to fucking die.
Right, yeah.
So, like, he's fine, and Mundy's like, nice dip in the Bacta tank.
Yeah, that's all it takes, man. Just a good Bacta tank, and
good to go.
Yeah, it's fine. But then while they're chatting, Luminara calls them through the hologram, and she found this box just sitting there.
150 clicks southeast.
Right.
That's far.
Clicks with a K.
These are they clicks with a K? Which one did we decide?
Clicks
that
with a K is
time?
kilometers, yeah. Okay. Because the K for kilometer. And then C, clicks is a meter of time. Yeah.
So she can either, through these viewfinders, this is either a gigantic ass planet, or she can see beyond the curvature of Geonosis.
No. I think she's made the travel 150 clicks, right?
No, she's looking through the things, and she says, I see something. And whatever clone is with her, we learn that is, I think, Buzz is his name, is like, "Oh, what do you see?" And she's like, "A box, 150 clicks southeast." She sees it through the viewfinders.
For some reason, I thought she was still talking to Obi-Wan. She was referencing her own positioning, but yeah, that sounds like a thing that would have been said on the show.
Okay, maybe that makes sense.
Yeah,
but
see, because I thought she was just looking in, and she was calling out her position, because we do cut back to Obi-Wan and Kiadi later. She disappears for a while, and they're like, "Well, her last position was here at a certain point, whatever."
Okay.
Yeah, but then so Obi-Wan tells her when she's checking out this box situation to wait for support, but she's all about chasing after
PTL.
Poggle. Yeah, PTL. She's like, "Oh, we're pretty close," but then they at the same time also warn her that a heavy storm is a brewing and is going to start making a mess of things.
Yeah, enter Anakin to say, "Hey, there's a sandstorm."
Right.
I will say
his favorite thing.
That's his favorite thing. He must love this planet, to be honest.
Right.
It's where he fell in love with his baby mama. But Luminara says PTL's headed directly for Progate Temple.
Mm-hmm.
I love when they introduce new characters and don't name them, and then they introduce new locations and name them, but these people have we don't have any reference point for why they would know what the fuck this thing is, but they would definitely know who their clone is that they work with day in, day out, but they can't call them by their name. But they're like, "Hey, clone, let's go to Progate Temple."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found that interesting as well, especially because we do not find out Buzz's name until much later.
Spoiler alert, until he is dead.
Right, exactly.
Did you catch what Mundy says about this temple?
I did not, no.
He says, essentially, during our first siege of the planet, which we decided, I guess, was just shortly after Attack of the Clones, right? Because this is siege number 2, and Obi-Wan makes reference earlier, "I hope that we don't have to retake this planet a third time."
Right.
So, Mundy essentially says during the first siege of the planet, he doesn't say we destroyed the temple, but he says, after our attack, nothing could have survived there.
Yeah, so what'd they do?
I have no idea. They did something.
They dropped like some fucking napalm up in there, or?
I don't think they did that, because that's not their nature. I think that they just had like 50,000 clones surrounding it and just shooting at it for like 7 days. Not really sure.
Is that any better or worse?
Neither.
Yeah. Okay.
But he definitely implies that there was a battle there that should have taken care of any enemy that was there. Mm-hmm. This is when Annie enters and talks about the sandstorm. Luminar's like, "Doesn't matter, I'm still going to get him." Obi-Wan is like, "Don't risk it, then we'll have to come and find you." Luminar's like, "Nope." And Mundy's like, "Okay, as you wish, whatever."
Yeah. So Anakin wants to go out and try and help her, but then they're all like, "No, you have to wait until the storm passes, because we'll all get fucked," basically.
Yep.
There is one clever little moment. So as the storm's coming in, we cut back to Poggle the Lesser with his droids. Mm-hmm. And 2 droids are talking, and then one disappears in the storm. They're like talking to each other, and they're I forgot, they like droid numbers are called out or something like that. And then the other droid keeps talking, looks back, and the other droid's missing. This is clever because we get one good shot of the droid falling over in the sand. And then we immediately basically cut to Luminara driving on her speeder. She got goggles on, and she's like in the thick of the storm. Mm-hmm. And then they keep driving, and then we see the same droid that's been covered in sand.
Yeah, because he like slowly collapses and is like being buried in sand. He's like, "Don't leave me."
Right. Yeah.
And she drives past him. I thought the goggles were a good touch. Mm-hmm. I definitely liked that droid stuff. That was cool. I thought the goggles were a good touch.
I just thought it was a really efficient way to show that this is what we're jumping to. It doesn't mean that this is happening right now. Mm-hmm. You know, like, hey, like a couple hours have definitely passed, right? Like, because this droid is buried.
Yeah,
right?
But as he falls, he's like being covered by sand. So I don't know if there's that much of a time jump.
But then when he
I think Lumi's like on their heels.
I don't know, because when they cut back to where Anakin and Obi-Wan are, then it's like a full storm there when it was not like the minute before when we saw them.
Hey, Anakin learned from that old lady in the marketplace to feel it in his bones. She fucking calls that shit within like minutes, so he knows. Like, he didn't have to look at the radar. He didn't have to download fucking Weather Channel app or deal with like IBM's Watson that powers the Weather Channel app. Like, he knew. He's like, I feel it in my boners, and storms are coming. I know sand. I hate sand. It's here.
Yeah, see, to me, it was just showing like a passage of time, just because, like, especially if she already called out 150 clicks and she's just on a speeder and like not on a lat or anything like that. You know, that's not something you're gonna travel in like 5 minutes. You know? So like, she might be on his heels, but there's still some distance there, right? Like, even if there wasn't sand blowing everywhere, I don't think they would be in view of each other. Does that make sense? Because the droid definitely is much more buried when she flies past than the last time we see the droid, like literally seconds before. Like, there's a big progression in how much sand has fallen on this droid.
Side note, I need a new keyboard that does not make as much noise when I type.
But then especially with the cut to where Anakin and Obi-Wan are, and it's just immediately all stormy, that to me showed that there was some passage of time. Because then after a bit, so she gets to this temple, yeah?
She gets to the temple.
She gets to the temple. She calls in again. The storm is making the signal all rough. Buzz goes off to investigate, and while Luminara is calling in, there's a scream. Buzz screams, and then Luminara ignites her lightsaber and runs off in the hologram. Hologram cuts off.
Yeah, can we pause for a second? And as they approach, there are like these Geonosian figures.
Yeah.
My note is, what the fuck is that? Is that a dead cicada Geonosian shell thing? And then, like, as they progress further into this temple, I'm like, okay, they look like sculptures. And then further in, definitely sculptures. Like, it didn't resonate with me at first that it was a, like in, how am I supposed to say it? Like an architectural thing. Like, at first, it just looked like the dead shell of a Geonosian. And I was like,
yes,
what's going on here? And then the deeper they get in, I'm like, okay, this is like part of the architecture. This is a design feature. It's not like some weird, scary fucking happenstance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like the first time we do see one, it does look like it is a Geonosian of some sort looking directly at her. But then we see a few more, and then I agree. Yeah, like at first I thought it was one spying on her, and then later on, yeah, then it catches up that these aren't actual living Geonosians. They are, yeah, it's just statues that have been carved into the actual architectural features of the temple itself. Yeah.
Okay. Side note, I have some math for you.
Go for it.
The speeder bikes in Return of the Jedi travel at 500 kilometers per hour.
Okay.
Okay. So at 150 clicks, if that's how far away she is, that'll take them 18 minutes to get there.
See, there's still some time passing there. Yeah. So, yeah. That's pretty much all what I got out of that detail, which I only bring up because the show is pretty bad about visual details like that.
Mm-hmm.
The show relies heavily on dialogue.
Definitely. This is a dialogue-heavy episode also.
Right.
So,
but at the same time, I just appreciate that they threw in a detail like, I mean, there was a lot of setup that needed to happen for that droid to become a place marker.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still, I still like the effort, right?
Yeah.
Because I was kind of amazed, just to jump back really quick, that we even got like a goodbye scene with Ahsoka and Barriss, and it wasn't just like a one-line explanation at the beginning, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the way that like
we actually
Kiadi
saw
just
it
comes
instead
back.
of somebody was just like, hey, yo,
Yeah,
Ahsoka ain't here no more.
Right, yeah. Instead of like Obi-Wan's like telling Kiadi like, yeah, Ahsoka and Barriss should be recovering quite nicely, right?
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so then for another time jump, so it's storming. Anakin wants to go help Luminara because like the hologram cuts out, so she's clearly in danger. But then Obi-Wan tells Anakin that they can't until the storm is out, and then we see them entering their lats when the storm is done. So again, there's more time has passed. So then they get to the temple. So that's Anakin and Obi-Wan. They're there with Commander Cody. They find Buzz's body, and this is when he gets named.
Yeah, Cody finds Buzz or Cody finds a trooper, and he says Buzz is dead. Mm-hmm. One thing of note, like before the Buzz scream, he like finds a sewer lid that's like the size of a driveway.
Basically, yeah.
Part of a driveway. The size of a small bedroom, and he just like kicks it, and it opens up, and there's a vertical shaft dropping down underneath that. So he is dead next to said vertical shaft with a slightly open 10-foot sewer lid. So I guess they decide that that's the way they need to go. Anakin says PTL didn't do this, and then like he points at one of the sculptures. He's like, but that did. And that's the sculpture of like a giant grotesque Geonosian, I guess.
Right. And then Obi-Wan mentions that there have been like legends and myths about Geonosian queens. Mm-hmm. And Anakin's like, oh, these bugs have queens? What?
And Obi's like, yeah, it's a rumor.
Yeah, it's a rumor, but there's never been proof. But these statues could be some evidence leading towards some sort of queen for the Geonosians.
Yep. So there's I'm going to speed through some of this stuff. There's a pursuit down through some catacombs. There's the ambiance when they get down into the catacombs is like super nice. The music is just kind of rolling like through with the dialogue and the action. Both Anakin and Obi-Wan have their lightsabers out, and like you get the hum and the swirl of that when it happens. Cody is kind of predicting the way they need to go, I guess. My thought was like, hey, wouldn't Barriss just be super great in this instance, because she was awesome at remembering the 200 junctions of the last place. Unfortunately, she's not here. But
well, I don't think they had schematics for this place, so she wouldn't have had the chance to memorize this one.
I will argue that why did they have schematics for the last place?
Oh, I have that same question. We had that question leading into it, didn't we?
Right. They've got to have like some weird ground penetrating radar or something that they like.
Yeah.
By the time they got here, they could have done some schematic recovery, something, I don't know.
Or just some sort of like satellite reconnaissance.
Something.
Blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
But
anyways.
We cut to PTL and some bugs dragging Luminara around. I guess she wakes up. I feel like her eyes are open the whole time, but she jumps up to fight, and then we've got like these... For spoiler's sake, I will call them zombie-like Geonosians with blank eyes and a moany tone. Like, they're not doing their normal clicky-click, like, trills. They're like, you know.
Yeah, and they're definitely dragging feet a lot more.
And, yeah, and, like, blank eyes.
And they're all kind of like, they always have like one shoulder higher than the other sort of thing. They're all like in a hunchback configuration sort of thing as they're, again, dragging feet. Luminara is fighting them pretty well despite being handcuffed.
Mm-hmm. And lucky for her, her comm still works and she's able to call Obi-Wan. And she's like, if you came to find me, get the fuck out of here. Like, don't follow me. Just leave. Trust me. Just go. It's for your own good. Don't try to find me. Don't come here. Don't, like, get the fuck out. You know. So what does Obi-Wan do? He says, she must be close. Let's fucking press on faster. We have this, at this point, we have this I wrote a haunted house style fighting / lighting type deal going on. It's like strobe lights and like quick cuts between things. I thought this was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. This is probably, I don't know, is this where we need to bring up like the next like monster movie connection that I know you may or may not talk about for a little bit?
Like it's very obvious that these are zombie-inspired creatures, Geonosians, right? So, again, all the hallmarks of a zombie are there. And we're talking, like, the classic Romero zombies, right?
Right.
And...
slack expression, slow movement, like moving in packs. What else do we got? Fuck. Undead.
Like, so so when the clones and Anakin and Obi-Wan encounter these zombie Geonosians, a couple clones get a few shots in, like, direct shots to the head. They carry on, the Geonosians carry on. So the direct shots to the head do not kill them. Dismembering them for sure takes them down, but even then, it's still a bit of a fight.
So I feel like that's backwards. I feel like everybody knows to kill a zombie, you shoot him in the head.
Well, there was a video that, what's his name? Max Landis, I believe, was the one who put the video together. Mm-hmm. And he talked about how his father once asked him, his father, you know, director of American Werewolf in Paris and stuff. So John Landis' father asks him, like, oh, well, how do you kill a vampire? Oh, that's easy. Like, you stake him in the heart, sunlight, holy water, blah, 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 and silver. So he's telling the story, and he goes, well, my dad just yells at me, it doesn't fucking matter because they aren't fucking real. You know? So,
oh, man.
This is the thing, right? So these zombies are Romeroan in influence, but then but the rules are set up very quickly, which I appreciate. So there's shots to the head, does not take them down, they get back up.
I feel like this is a like a design influence or like a directorial influence where it's like, yeah, you know, people watching this are going to recognize that we're doing a zombie episode, and then they're going to be like, yeah, shoot him in the head, and then we shoot him in the head, and they don't fucking die. And then
come back,
anybody that knows about zombies knows, like, you shoot them in the head and they fucking die. And that doesn't work, so it's like a way to continue that tension because the way that we know zombies die doesn't work.
Well, yeah. And also it's part playing with expectations, and it's just simple. Like I was saying, I need rules set up, right? Mm-hmm. So
we know them, is what you're saying,
right? And because if you watch a lot of horror movies, they're always you can one way to differentiate horror movies. Some horror movies set up all the rules right at the beginning. You know, like a lot of I'm trying to think of one specifically. What was the fucking one from the 90s with like the Tooth Fairy? I don't know why this is the one I think about. Yeah, where like the Tooth Fairy was the killer. I can't remember what the fuck it was, but it like took place in like East Coast. It was like literally late 90s.
I got nothing.
But the reason this one comes to mind, and the reason I'm blanking out on any others is, or actually no, let's go with The Ring. The Ring sets up all the fucking rules at the beginning, right? You watch the tape, you die after 7 days. Mm-hmm. Those are the rules, right? The Tooth Fairy one I was thinking of, they do the exact same thing where they have like a 5 or so minute prologue where they explain the entire like legend of the Tooth Fairy in this northeastern town, and the children would disappear and blah blah blah, but the Tooth Fairy could only do this and this and this and this. They set up exact rules of what the Tooth Fairy can fucking do, right?
Is that the one with Dwayne The Rock Johnson or Larry the Cable Guy?
Neither.
Haven't seen that one.
I'm trying to remember who the fuck was even in it, but I just remember like it ended at like a lighthouse, and it was like the spirit of a woman that was the Tooth Fairy. It was like during that string of slasher films in the late 90s where you always had to have like the surprise twist. Like Scream kicked off this whole thing of like, who's the killer? Who's the killer? You know, like any movie where you knew who the killer was throughout was like not a fun movie apparently to anybody in the late 90s. So like
nothing in the late 90s where you actually could expect what was happening was fun.
Well, yes. But, you know, like, nonetheless, it was, despite the fact that the movie was based around, like, a known entity, a.k.a. the Tooth Fairy, it was still weird that they still try to put, like, a twist on it where it's like, oh, it was actually this lady. Like, it was the Scooby-Doo ending for all of this shit, right? You know? So, but Scream knew what it was doing. So then, like, when you have the unmasking, like, you know, spoiler, like, oh, it was Billy Loomis the whole time, right? Like, Scream was built around that premise, right? Mm-hmm. And again, Scream is one that plays with that a lot, right? Because those people know the rules of a horror movie. But then I'm trying to think
Jamie Kennedy knows the rules of a horror movie.
He knew for sure and was really good at informing the others. And then if you pay really close attention, when other characters fall into the pitfalls of,
for sure,
of movie horror rules, the movie does a really good job of explaining why Sydney could not run out the front door when she was being attacked, right? Because the killer was right there, and I haven't seen this movie in ages, but it was one of my favorite movies. But it's just the memory escapes me. But she's trying to run towards the front door, and I think she like slips or something. Then the killer's running towards her, so that she books it up the stairs, and therefore she's, you know, playing dumb into the exact same horror rules that they were just decrying, like the scene prior. You know?
Oh, Jamie narrates what is happening because he's watching Friday the 13th,
right?
And he's like, no, don't, blah, blah, blah. Don't go up the stairs. The killer always does this. Never go into the other room and say, I'll be right back.
I'll be right back. Yep.
And it's always, you know, I think it's implied that he's a virgin because he's like, the virgin it definitely is. That blah, 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 blah.
Oh, no, it's not implied. It's a well-known part of that. And that's why when Sydney does have sex with Billy Loomis, he's the next one to die. You know? So, But again, that movie knew what the movie was, right?
They did it well.
Yeah. And then that's when you jump into a movie like I Know What You Did Last Summer, where the rules are kind of being made up on the fly, you know.
Doesn't matter because it's one of the best soundtracks.
The 90s were good for soundtracks. I'm going to give it to, like, that had a good one. Empire Records was by far one of my favorite soundtracks of the 90s.
My two favorite ones were I Know What You Did Last Summer and Batman Forever. That was a good one.
Yep,
also.
Batman Forever, for sure. Yeah, that had, and then Space Jam. Space Jam would be the other winner.
Not familiar with that one?
Oh, come on, man. That one is so ultimately 90s. You got like some mega hits. Space Jam itself was a good song, and then R. Kelly, I Believe I Can Fly. You know.
I will go to spacejam.com and look at the 1996 review of whatever was on that album, and we'll go from there. So.
The still functioning website. But anyways, So anyways,
still the same.
Yeah. So anyways, this is to say that the constant between horror movies will be, do you show all your cards at the beginning, or do you hold on to some of them, right?
Okay. And so how do you feel that we're doing in this horror zombie Star Wars story?
The rules are definitely being made up as they go for this one.
Okay.
We get a few more revelations later, a few more pieces of evidence, a few more pieces of information get brought up. So this is what I mean. So Obi-Wan, as we keep going, he starts suspecting like maybe there's a hive mind being set up, right? Mm-hmm. You know, like we need to figure out the hive mind. So it's always like a here's the issue at hand. We figure this out, but then this opens up another door. How do we get out of this room? Moving on to the next one.
Yeah, it's kind of convenient.
Think Saw, right?
That, like Anakin keeps going, how is this possible? And Obi-Wan's always got the answer. Speaking of hive minds, like what he says is, I've heard rumor of a Geonosian hive mind so strong that it can maintain its connection with its warriors even after they have died. Like, I'll bring this up later, but isn't all of the information that Obi-Wan conveniently has kind of pertinent to this mission? Like, all of this shit is stuff that he should have filled everybody in on beforehand.
Well, like, it's just odd that he just happens to know this offhand. Like, there are other trying to see, like, because I haven't had time to sit down and try and think of my references for this one, but like a good one I could probably think of is like maybe The Mummy, the 1999 version of The Mummy, not the classic and not the shitty Tom Cruise one from last year or the year prior. Okay. Yes.
Quick question.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep you on track, but I got to derail you for a minute. Do you see the Brandon Fraser Mummy franchise as being like the Mummy of classic monster lore? Because I don't.
No. The 30s Mummy for sure is. So Universal Classics is going to be 30s Mummy, and then, but in referencing the Mummy in 2018, most people's minds are going to go to 99 version. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Because
I would consider like the 30s and the Tom Cruise like the same, we'll call it Mummy franchise, and then like the Brandon Fraser is like another story that had the Mummy as the title. I mean,
no, that's I think in terms of remakes go, that story did what it needed to do to update that story, which I think was really well done.
Which was turn Dwayne The Rock Johnson into a Scorpion King.
Oh, I don't even acknowledge that The Mummy Returns exists.
Part of it.
It's such a bad movie. But no, yeah. I mean, there are three separate universes. You know what I mean? Like, so you got your 30s mummy. I mean, hell, even with Universal itself, you could look at Van Helsing as its own fourth incarnation. You know, and then Tom Cruise being another reboot of
like Van Helsing with Wolverine.
Hugh Jackman. Yeah, because I believe Mummy shows up in that, but. You know, that was like the whole grab bag of all the monsters that Universal has some rights to, right?
Yeah.
You know? So,
okay.
But the reason I brought up the Mummy is because Rachel Weisz has that the book that details all the stuff that Imhotep went through. Mm-hmm. So, like, as needed,
the Necronomicon?
Yeah. Yes. So, as needed, she refers to the book. You know what I mean? She's not just like some of this information. Like they set it up before, at least with her character, that she's been working in Alexandria. She's a librarian there. Mm-hmm. She's like all up in this like Egyptian lore and history. But all the same, she still needs to refer to the book at times, right?
So, question.
Yes.
I keep bringing Barasafi up. What if it was Barasafi instead of Obi-Wan that is like regurgitating this in encyclopedic information? Would it make more sense? Because
but like, when is she reading about this, you know?
Well,
like,
I mean, Luminara had her memorize 200 junctions in a thing. So
again, I need it to be character based, not Luminara told me to do this based, right?
Okay, so my argument to that is that our introduction to the character is that me, Luminara, I am a very thorough Jedi, and I told my Padawan to memorize this thing.
Yeah.
Therefore, it could be implied, learn and memorize everything you can about this planet, relevant or not. Which, when it comes to this, like, this is why I didn't put forth the information, because it didn't seem relevant. But now that we're in this situation, this information that I did learn and memorize, okay, maybe it's actually relevant because maybe it's actually true instead of just conjecture.
I don't find it a bad plot device to do that. It certainly, if it would definitely help more than Obi-Wan just saying he's heard rumors and stuff. And
that's what my question is. Would it serve
I would still need to hear that Barriss did read outside of just the one directive of doing this thing, but you know, based on the relationship from last episode between Luminara and Barriss, it was definitely like I did only what she told me to do, right? Like, I don't think she's an above and beyond sort of person. Barriss is, that is.
Yeah,
right?
No, that's a fair enough point.
So, but like, if that was the way the plot was structured, where she was still around and Luminara did mention, you know, like, to me that would it would be even keeled with Obi-Wan just going, you know, like, sitting in the Jedi archives, I did read about some of this stuff. Like, there was a queen, right?
Okay.
You know, like, there's no structural difference there.
Yeah, no, your argument is valid, and I accept it. So
yeah. But yeah. So, anyways, this
Anakin tries to calm out to Ki-Adi-Mundi. No signal. Fair enough. Obi-Wan sends some troopers. He's like, hey, you two go topside, get a hold of Mundi, like, fishy business down here. Mm-hmm. They get killed.
Yep.
Of course. Annie wants to go. Obi-Wan's like, no. They've
we can't
circled
split
back.
the team up anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we can't. Yeah. Basically, again, he also has seen horror movies and knows you don't split up again. Right. Like, we already tried it once.
Didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't let them keep picking us off one by one. So
we heard them die, went in, found them, they got dead. So they push on. They both describe this underground circumstance differently. Obi-Wan describes it as warm. Anakin describes it as sticky. And then they are in the chamber, right? We meet the queen. We actually meet the queen. There is one. It's this giant Geonosian. Anakin says he's got a bad feeling about this. And then one of the clones, I don't know if it's Cody, like puts on some red eye vision or something. Mm-hmm. And Obi-Wan is like, oh, it was Luminara in there. And he's like, yeah, she's like strung up above the throne or at the throne or something. Is what he said.
Near,
it's weird choice of words or whatever. So they formulate a plan of how they're going to go in and deal with this situation. Anakin wants to just like run in. He's like, I'll get the queen, you guys get the soldiers. To which Obi-Wan's like, no, like, time out, calm down. It's always rushing in with you. Like, let's figure this shit out. And I think the actual plan is that Obi-Wan wants to walk in and negotiate.
Yeah, he just wants to talk to the queen because
Anakin calls him out for that, which I thought this was a good touch because this is a call forward to General Grievous being like, oh, Obi-Wan, the negotiator.
Mm-hmm.
So this put, when this happened in the episode, it put like a little bubble inside me that was like, this is nice.
See, I also saw it as a good justification for everything we have heard from Obi-Wan at this point, because then it shows that he does have a genuine curiosity for the world around him.
Okay.
And when confronted with what was previously an unknown entity, such as a Geonosian queen, he wants to learn more about it rather than just killing it.
And we know that that'll come into play later with a detail that we'll find out shortly, shall we say.
Yeah.
So the plan is for them to walk in, talk to the queen. There's a backup plan. Obi-Wan tells Cody, like, basically, get your headlights ready. And when I say jump, turn them on. And Anakin, at that point, you can start slashing shit with your lightsaber, right?
Right.
So they walk in. They walk in.
They make themselves known, essentially. They announce themselves to the queen. Poggle notices them, turns around. The queen essentially starts talking to them in Galactic Basic, which I found very interesting.
It is very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know when she got the chance to learn Galactic Basic, but
I would imagine that she is probably super, super old, and although she has seemingly zero interaction with anybody other than Geonosians.
You're right.
Like, maybe she's asking for information from, like, the outside world to protect her kingdom.
But then I still don't know when Galactic Basic would come up, right? So I just found it oddly convenient that she was able to speak Galactic Basic, and Obi-Wan basically tells her to surrender as she has, broken a bunch of Republic rules and kidnapping Luminara and all that jazz.
Yeah, he basically says, you're not in charge here anymore because of your behavior. The Republic is taking over, so stand down and nothing bad will happen. Give us back our Jedi. You have no authority over her. We do. So abide by these stipulations and everything's cool. We're going to turn around and walk out of here.
She basically just immediately says no, and that she has intentions on mind controlling Luminara, and that she was happy to have one Jedi, and now she's even happier to have 3 total.
This is the part in the horror movie where the behind the scenes horror contributor reveals their plan. right? This is where we know. Going back to Scream, this is where Billy.
Oh, you mean like the master plan? You said behind the scenes. I thought you meant behind the scenes of a movie.
Not behind the scenes of the movie. Behind the scenes of the villain.
The mastermind plan is revealed. Shall we say? Yes. This is that scene. The Incredibles termed it monologuing. Is what's happening basically.
Yep.
So she begins monologuing her entire plan, and Obi-Wan is curious about this whole situation. So, like I said, I like that this curiosity of Obi-Wan feeds through, and it helps. Like I said before, it justifies that he would even know some of this information, and while that is still super convenient for him just to have off the top of his head with all of these, like, there might have been a queen and blah blah blah.
It gives a different depth to Obi-Wan also, in that he's not just this by the book law-abiding guy, and he's not just an order-obeying drone. He's out here. Part of what he loves about being a Jedi is the information gathering.
Right.
Like, he's a guy of knowledge, and he wants to know things. So it turns out that the way that this queen is mind controlling all of these zombies and everything has something to do with, like, this worm thing.
Right.
And so she's like, I'm going to control her mind and her body. She says, I'm not going to kill her. I'm going to consume her, and I'm going to control her. Pulls out this worm, and then, like, as she's, like, putting the worm on Luminara, Anakin and Obi-Wan are talking. And it's funny because they're whispering, but then later Luminara responds to, like, the whispers, so they're not whispering low enough that nobody can hear them.
Yeah.
Apparently everybody can.
I think everybody could hear them. Because, like, they weren't hushed whispering, but they were definitely just speaking in a normal tone, right? Amongst themselves, really. So then I found it really funny where Luminara was like, I would really like it if I wasn't mind controlled. And Anakin's like, yeah, why are we, should we interfere now? And Obi-Wan's like, no, I want to see how this works. Does it go in the nose or does it go in the ear? And Luminara was like, why do you want to know this? And Anakin like, yeah,
says, why do you want to know? I don't think Luminara would appreciate it. And she's like, nope, definitely don't appreciate it. Like, do something. And then Anakin's like, yeah, pretty sure it's the nose. I'm betting on the nose. But no, we shouldn't wait to find out.
Right. So as the thing is crawling around her forehead, that's when I believe Cody jumps out, right? Obi-Wan gives the signal. Cody jumps on out and starts blinding all the Geonosians in there. Is that what happens?
Yeah, Obi-Wan says, Cody, the time is now. They jump out with their lights, and then my next note is this the beginning of Solo, a Star Wars story?
Basically. I saw the similarity
thing.
too.
There's like a queen slug thing, and she is defeated by light.
Yeah.
Which, the more and more I see these similarities in the Clone Wars, because we've seen a couple of them from... we've seen things that were later echoed in The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and now Solo. I don't know that we've picked anything specifically that we saw in Rogue One, but it makes me wonder if the story group involved with the live action movies, like, took any of this stuff into account, or if it's just coincidence. Because I don't know that, I will say, I don't know that there was a quote-unquote story group included in the writing of The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi. Because J.J. Abrams definitely takes the heat for any criticism of The Force Awakens. And we all know that Rian Johnson takes all fucking heat for the things that people don't like about The Last Jedi.
Well, like, Story Group was involved, surely, you know.
Okay.
They're allowed creative freedom to write whatever they want, and then the Story Group might step in and be like, "Hey, like, we're gonna set a boundary here, right?"
So it's more of a restrictive thing and not a like there's these awesome ideas over here, like include those in there too.
Right. No, the Story Group isn't. You know, depending on the project, the Story Group is not there to create and lay down the specific tracks. They might be able to form a story, but then beyond that, it's up to the individual writers. And I saw Chuck Wendig at WonderCon last year, and I did ask what involvement the Story Group had in his writing. And I think I've mentioned this on the show already, but I was just curious his experience with the Story Group, and he said, look, it was a pretty open field. They definitely fenced off a few areas, but it wasn't as much as you think it would be. They basically told me to go write whatever I wanted, and then there would be a round of editing where they would make minor adjustments, but overall, the story that Chuck Wendig wrote is the story he wanted to tell. Right.
So it's kind of more like a that is the.
It's like a consultative group.
Yeah, it's like the acceptance committee where it's like, here's what you can't do.
Right.
And then you write what you'd like to, and then they go, okay, these, love all of this except for these 3 or 4 things don't fit in with the larger picture that you don't know about. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. And, I mean, to be fair, any criticisms you might have of, like, the more recent films or whatever, the thing I definitely appreciate about the Story Group's existence now is that between Clone Wars and the theatrical films, like all, what are we at, 9, 10 of them now, right?
We were at 10 when we started this, so I think we're at 11 now.
With Solo?
Mm-hmm. I think Solo's number 11. That is including the Clone Wars.
Wars.
Without the Clone Wars, it's 10.
Yeah. So, between those 10 movies, everything Clone Wars, and Resistance, and Forces of Destiny, and even the fucking theme parks at this point, there is a cohesion to all of it that I very much appreciate, right? So...
And I will say, I do want to say one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Back when I was reading all the EU novels, before Disney was involved with Star Wars, and after Episode 3, when that was the last fucking Star Wars movie we were ever going to see, and the only thing that Star Wars nerd like myself had left was the expanded universe, and what I dove into was the YA novels, and I got real heavy into it when the new Jedi Order came out, which was like a 19 fucking book series, which is insane in itself.
Yeah.
But for the most part, my understanding of Star Wars, be it film, the novels, and beyond, was still one overarching story. So even though the canon wasn't as tight as it is now, it was still like a greater canon, and the stuff that didn't quite fit in was essentially the Star Wars legends of old.
Yeah. See, that was my problem with the old EU, was like the way there was no care taken towards what was already laid down before, right? And this is to contrast it against my main contrast for Story Group, Lucasfilm Story Group, wouldn't be new Star Wars stuff versus current Legends material. My actual comparison
Is
And
new Star Wars stuff versus new Star Wars stuff?
no, new Star Wars stuff versus MCU.
Okay.
MCU does a really shitty job of totally putting all Marvel television into like its sad, weird little ghetto in the corner.
I tell you what, though, MCU does a better job of it than the DCEU, which isn't even actually a thing.
Yeah,
the DCEU was a fucking nickname that was made up by fucking somebody, and people just rolled with it.
And it's still not even like internally used at DC and Warner Brothers at all.
It's not at all.
Yeah. So at least like MCU, they set up their own system, and I appreciate that. But it still really bothers me that I'm watching, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Jessica Jones, The Defenders, and they're all in their own separate universes. They make references to one another, but
I mean they are and they aren't, right? They're not as interconnected as the movies are, but they are all supposed to exist in the same. All of it, including the movies, exist in the same universe. But
I get.
It's the interconnectivity of it, and like or I guess the intensity of the interconnectivity, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Jessica Jones and Daredevil and Iron Fist and fucking Luke Cage obviously take place in the same fucking universe because they come together for the Defenders.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think it was...
So what's weird to me, though, is like, so you got that going on, and then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are doing their thing, but wouldn't they be concerned about this super powered guy in Harlem?
I mean, they totally should be.
So that's where I'm...
Wouldn't the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. be, like, done for when S.H.I.E.L.D. itself is exposed as being Hydra?
Right. So
shouldn't the show title like change over to Agents of Hydra?
Which the logo did for a season. So here's the thing. So it's always a one-way street, and that's what bothers me. So it's a one-way street
from cinema down.
Right. So movies affect shows, but stuff on the shows I would really like to see affect some of the movies. Like I would love, like Iron Fist can go suck a dick, but like Daredevil.
I think it would have been... There was a great opportunity in Infinity War for the Defenders or Daredevil or Jessica Jones or Agent Coulson or whomever, right? You can have a cameo of them fighting in a fucking alleyway in the background or something.
Right.
And I'm not saying they need to... Like, we don't need to... have the minutia of do they dust away or not, but if in this giant fucking epic battle, and epic is not a word that I throw around, as I do not throw around the word literally, right? I literally don't throw around the word epic in the same fashion, but this would have been an ideal opportunity to include some of that in it. I mean, fuck, have Wilson Fisk run out of a fucking hole in the back of a jail cell or something. Who knows?
Right. So that's what I'm saying, like, and I'm not saying everything in the Star Wars universe affects each other, but there still seems to be a connective, like you said, connective tissue that doesn't contradict one another. So that's my problem, is like there are things in the MCU already that will contradict each other, and then now that like Gifted and Legion is like the other question of I don't know where the fuck that fits in, right? Like it's MCU adjacent, it's not part of MCU, but it's definitely a part of X-Men. So you're just like,
yeah, well, wait for the Fox merger and shit's gonna get real fucked up.
Right. So
there almost has to be like some time travel alternate fucking universe shit going
on. Basically. Yeah, again. So like we went through that once with X-Men. But so this is my compliment.
Boo to that one.
yeah, this is my compliment to Story Group, where it's not perfect. It doesn't always run super well, but on the whole, I appreciate the little bits that we might get in and out of other stories between, like characters in the comic books being referenced in novels, which are now referenced in Force Awakens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. So, anyways.
Yeah, they're definitely doing a solid job of weaving everything together. So, I mean, kudos to them. But what I'm saying is when I was a younger person, that was my impression of the Star Wars universe in general.
Mm-hmm.
Before Disney was involved, is that there was some pretty tight for the times continuity to everything.
Yeah.
Because like when Chewbacca died in the novels,
mm-hmm.
Chewbacca was dead in the comics at that point, unless it was like a classic comic that was telling stories in a different time period.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
But we're real close to the end of this thing.
Yes, let's close it up.
We got some clones that came in and blinded the queen and consequently blinded the zombies. Obi-Wan gets a hold of this worm thing.
Mm-hmm.
He pulls it off Luminara with the Force, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it's a bunch of fighting.
Yep. And, Luminara gets freed.
Luminara gets freed. They grab PTL, which took me 2 viewings to figure that out, because they go on like an escape. Like I saw that they got him, and then they run out of the.
Because they handcuff him and everything too. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
So they put binders on him, like physical binders too, which I found interesting. Right?
Yeah, but then there's some mayhem that goes on. Anakin like grabs the fucking worm from Obi-Wan, throws it on the ground, like stomps on it.
Right.
Or Obi-Wan drops it or whatever. Obi-Wan's pissed.
Right.
And he's like, no, I was going to study that thing. Anakin's like, well, it's dead. Move on. Let's go. And they all rush out of the throne room, if you want to call it that. Luminara's like, there's the exit. She points up. It's like a vertical tunnel. So they're all mm-hmm. climbing. This is where I lost track of PTL.
I think he's like behind them somewhere. But yeah, they're definitely climbing up this shaft.
He is also climbing, but on his own.
Yes.
He's not like tethered to anyone. Like he could have gone another direction or something, but I guess he's fleeing for his own life right now.
Well, yeah, because before they leave the throne room, the clones shoot the supports and the mm-hmm. ceiling starts collapsing down.
Yeah, because I think Anakin says like bury them or mm-hmm. some shit. Like that's the new plan is bury everything down here so it can't get out. That'll kill the queen. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, and therefore these zombies.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
zombies as well.
That's part of it. So like as it's collapsing part of the shaft as well, or something like that.
Yeah, there's like a cover or a bunch of rocks or something,
mm-hmm.
and because Luminara is like trying to, I don't know, warn Obi-Wan specifically, like watch your face, and there's like rocks falling down, and they conveniently miss all of the good guys and PTL and just smash everybody else. So after that, like the top of the thing caves in, and then there's a weird moment where as the throne room 100% collapses,
mm-hmm.
and there's rocks and shit and the cover like falling down this vertical tunnel, all of a sudden there's like a reverse pressure situation, and it blows them out of the tunnel.
Yeah, like the only way that logically made sense in my head was that when everything collapsed, it like pushed all the air from that section out or something like that, and that is the gust that lifts them up and out of the shaft.
I agree that is what you're supposed to think. I don't think that in reality that is what would happen.
No, absolutely not. I mean, like, but of all things in this episode, that was not anything that broke my suspension of disbelief, really, for this one. Like, it still was odd, but yeah, it was fine. It was whatever. They were running away from zombies.
So they all blow out the top and then just float down to the ground around the hole, and they've escaped the temple. Anakin says, "That went better than expected." Obi-Wan basically says, "I wanted that worm, you dick." And Anakin's like, I mean, the secrets are buried down there, so don't worry about it. Because what Obi-Wan wanted to do is like study this worm and then be like, figure out what the process was to all this other shit. And I'm sure that won't come back to bite him in the ass. Sorry, that's my dog.
Yep. So, yeah, that's basically where the episode ends, yeah? Cue loud music?
Yeah, that's it. Cue loud music. I've got one note on voice actors, and we can move on to thumbs up, thumbs down.
Go for it.
Did you look at voice actors at all? I will ask you that first.
Not at all, no.
Okay, who did the voice of the Queen?
I have no idea.
Mr. D. Bradley Baker.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
So, he is, I would imagine him as the Geonosians because of the clicks and trills and the more insectoid Perry the Platypus noises, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Because that is him as well. But I was surprised when it was like an actual voice that it was D. Bradley Baker. Because I don't remember it sounding particularly masculine.
No, but this happens in animation fairly often.
Fair enough.
I would say, yeah.
But I was impressed by that next step out of the realm of normal D. Bradley Baker-ness on this show. I mean, he does a shit ton of voices, like lots and lots and lots.
Oh, yeah.
And not just on this show, but across the board. So he's a pretty awesome fucking voice actor that's got a pretty wide range. So congratulations to him. He is the Queen of Geonosis as well.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
So that's what I got for that. But let's hop into thumbs up, thumbs down, and finish this one out. What do you think?
I had trouble with this one, honestly. I will admit that upon my first viewing of Clone Wars years ago, this is an episode I did remember very well.
Okay.
But not positively. It was more of just like a what the fuck is happening. And that said, technically speaking, I think the episode is fine. It's put together well. It's paced well. I just, as the story goes, though, I still don't like it. It's just oddly placed in the Star Wars universe to me.
So are you saying this is a thumbs down for you, or are you talking yourself back around to thumbs up?
I'm trying to figure it out right now. Actually, I haven't made the actual decision, but I think I'm going to stick with a thumbs down for this one. Okay.
Do you want to hear my opinion of it?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I gave this one a thumbs up. I do really enjoy... I enjoy when the Clone Wars takes a concept of... lately, we've seen a bunch of monster movie stuff, right? With the Zilla Beast and whatnot. But, they take like the horror genre and they explore it. And is it perfect? No. But is it interesting? Yes. And it's a nice way to get away from just like a generic kids cartoon thing. There's other shit going on. It tells a story in the Clone Wars. I'm interested to see how this 5-part story thing wraps up, because we basically have like a spy thing, and then a war thing, and then I guess another spy thing.
Yeah, another spy, and like a combined spy/war thing.
Right.
Because there's the topside battle.
And then we have like this zombie horror thing. So I'm interested to see how part 5 wraps up on this. But for this one, I enjoyed it for the simple pleasure of sitting down, and I could have taken like no notes on this because I can sit back and I can just watch, and it's like it starts these things, like I know what happened. I get the point they're going towards is PTL. We don't have a plot A, plot B. We just have directive, straightforward, and then there's these mysterious creature zombie-like things. We find out where they're coming from, kind of, and then we escape. And it leaves me with some questions that I would like to be answered. And along the way, the different parts did what they were supposed to do, and we got to where we are. So that that I'm good with it. So I'm solid thumbs up on this one.
Yeah. See, here's my conflict is that
sure.
I think individually with this episode, technically all of that, I agree with you. Okay. Upon this viewing, I did enjoy this episode, but then there's still a strong part of me that, like, for years this was the episode that made me mad that was still canon.
Really?
Right? Yeah. I just really, it was just one of those weird concepts that somebody just threw into the show, but it just, I can't say what does and does not belong in the Star Wars universe, but there's something about Geonosian zombies that's just so ridiculous to me.
So this is weirder than Bombad Jedi or the Blue Shadow virus.
Yes.
Or Children of the Force.
Like,
or the Zillo Beast, like...
Well, because, like, Zillo Beast is, like... I can accept, like, a monster wreaking havoc, Like, surely the steps of how that came about could have been neater, right?
Okay.
But then once you start introducing the concept of undead... And remember, too, that in a couple of years... Anakin starts fearing that Padme's going to die.
Okay.
And he's going to want to try and either stop her from dying, stop death itself, or find a way to bring her back from the dead. So then we plop this story into the middle of it.
I'm surprised that he didn't stick his dick up her nose, or.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like, so then this kind of takes away the power of his fear of death for Padme to me, right?
Okay. You know what's interesting about your assessment here? Usually I'm the one looking at the greater context of things.
I know.
And this episode, I'm like, hey man, this episode's cool because it's like a fucking zombie episode, and like, like it plays out well, and I enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And usually that would be like you're like, nope, episode starts here and ends here, and that's how I'm judging it.
Yeah. And
in this case, you're taking the Kevin Hort approach of, look at all these grand fucking things going on in the Star Wars universe, and think about this in the future and this in the past, and like, how does it all fit in? And that's what you're doing here, and you came up with a different perspective, which is fucking awesome. So
right.
I give your opinion a thumbs up.
But it's because, like I said, this is one of the very rare episodes that I do remember from this show.
Okay.
I honestly don't even remember what happens in the following episode. I don't remember the 3 leading up to this, like, until we watched all of this. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't realize this episode was coming right at this moment, basically. Once we got back on Geonosis, I was like, oh shit. Like, I didn't realize the zombies came this soon. For some reason, I thought they were like a season 3 or season 4 thing.
I knew they were coming. I had forgotten about the queen.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about the queen too, but the zombies. So this is why for this episode, it's because at this point with the other episodes, I have watched them all once and have since forgotten them, but this one remains so strongly in my memory that I can't help but bring baggage into this one, right?
Hey, fair enough. Bring as much baggage as you like.
Yeah, and so like as you have noted, usually I try and just objectively look at each episode on its own, but in this one I do feel that the context is important to this one, and the context of the repercussions of bringing something so out there in concept into this universe. So like I said, Zilla Beast is I think Zilla Beast works because it's still a creature that could exist in this universe that they pissed off, right?
You're okay with creatures, but not necessarily monsters.
Like monsters are fine too. It just has to be like the leap of logic of a worm that lets her hive mind stuff. Like I know that Obi-Wan wanted to study this so we don't have like the reasoning and possibly some. I'm imagining because they made it such a big stink about it right at the end, we'll figure out more about this worm somehow in the next episode.
What if the worm itself is like pure midi-chlorian?
I mean, like I said, it's like getting so high concept that's where I have a problem with this episode to begin with. Like it's just set up on a concept that is so like I was saying, the string that holds my disbelief and suspends it above the ground is fairly thick, but undead Geonosians breaks that string.
Okay.
Right. So that's my thing with this episode. I think technically they did everything they needed to do. I would be really curious, and again, looking forward, I remember no other episode, but I agree with you. I like it when they take some sort of genre and play with it and toy with it, or even influences from, like Godzilla, Akira Kurosawa, Seven Samurai, all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Taking influence from, and I would have been more like if they took a generic slasher route, that would have been more plausible in my mind per se, right?
Okay.
They get locked in a room and they get picked off one by one by a killer that's in the room, like Agatha Christie style, right?
Yeah, we'll have to see if any of that comes past later down the line. That would be interesting.
Yeah. So for this one, I'm going to stick with my thumbs down. But admitting that I think the episode does flow well. I think it's written as well as this story being told could be told. I just have, for this one specifically, some fundamental problems with the story told itself.
I am not trying to talk you out of it.
Yeah. So I'm just really trying to make sure I get into the finite of why this episode, because usually I try and take that objective approach, like, is this a good episode, is this a bad episode? For this one, the story itself to me is problematic.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's not a strong thumbs down by any means. It's just definitely,
it breaks the 50.
Yeah, it breaks that 50 mark. It's definitely like a solid thumbs down for me. It's just like it's not awful by any means. So it's just working with the areas of gray in our binary system.
Yeah. Last question, capital B bad guy, I'm going to say is Karina the Great, the Queen Geonosian.
Yeah, I guess that, yeah, she's our third act baddie that comes into play.
Or do you want to say PTL, or do you want to say
no? It was either going to be, it was either going to be, it was either going to be like generic zombies or queen, Yeah. So like the reveal of the queen, as you said, is that's another trope that does come from horror movies. We get a lot of third act, flips, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is common in many. It's like I said, objectively, I think the story is being told well. This is a part of 3-act structure that kind of happens a lot in fairly standard storytelling. Not standard in terms of like just bad, just like, hey, like when you tell a story, this is what happens. So like musical, if you look at musicals, you can see the structure a lot stronger. So this is where you always get like the sad song right before things go well at the end, right?
Right.
So I don't know why, but because to me this musical follows the rules so closely, and yet I still really like this musical, which would be Legally Blonde. And same thing happens in the movie, but it's the scene where the lawyer hits on her, or the professor hits on her, and then she gets fired from the group thingy or whatever. So she gets all sad for a hot second. This is when that queen gets revealed in storytelling structure. So.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I will roll with it.
Right. So it's or like Hercules. It's not Hercules versus Haiti anymore. It's Hercules saving Meg because Meg died. Right. So there's always some sort of third act issue that happens. Aladdin gets revealed as not a prince.
And then wishes the genie free.
Yeah. So upon his own talents, he frees the genie and traps Jafar.
And defeats Jafar.
Not genie. Frees Jasmine and defeats Jafar.
Right.
Upon using his own wits.
Right.
Let's see. Beauty and the Beast would be Belle. I'm trying to think now. Belle realizes the Beast is good, goes back to Beast, and get that Gaston is the monster, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 3-act structures are an interesting thing, and it's an interesting thing when you're working in a 22-minute version of them,
Yep.
So, anyways.
You get about 6 3/4 minutes apiece, something like that. Or
right.
7 and 1/3, I guess. Well, take out credits, so yeah, about 6.
Well, like the other thing for anybody who's interested in writing, 3-act structures. So the 3 acts don't determine the length, right?
I know.
Right. So, like you can have really short third acts, you can have really short second acts, or you can have really short first acts and you just jump straight into that second act basically after a really quick setup. It's
I was
more
simply saying if we took a 22-minute episode and subtracted the credits, you got about 21 minutes, so you got about 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Per third.
Yeah.
Not saying that 1/3 equals 1 act.
Right. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of the early episodes where my thumb was strongly down, like I think my problem was like we had very long second acts, right? Like that plot A, plot B business, where they're just wandering around, whatever, bantering with each other, right? Like
it's kind of like Empire Strikes Back, plot A, plot B, wandering around, talking to each other.
Right. Yeah. But at least there was an arc that was forming rather than just Anakin walking around with Dooku. I'm trying to remember any of those early episodes, and I can't even at this point. So
I'll give you a breakdown off mic.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's this episode.
What else?
Anything
what
else?
else you got for this week, buddy?
Nothing. That's my whole piece. I mean, I feel like I've walked circles around my feelings on this episode.
Okay. I will tell you, it has been 6 weeks since you have given a thumb down. You had a 5-week upturn. 5 weeks of thumbs up. And
did you say last time that was the tie for the streak as well? And then I just broke it again.
This is the tie.
Okay.
So twice you have gone thumbs up 5 weeks in a row. You haven't made the 6, but I will say this time, the last time that you gave a thumbs down was on Bounty Hunters, and you were initially you gave it a thumbs up, and then I gave it a thumbs down, and then you flipped on it and you went down. So we'll say 5.5 weeks you've been thumbs up. So that's your new benchmark is 5.5.
Hey, but at least like now, we're getting to a point in the show where, like I said, my disagreements with this episode are fundamental, not technical. So I appreciate that much. Like I didn't.
Yeah.
Right. Like the first season, I was just not having fun with that whatsoever. Watching that stuff.
I agree.
So.
And way back in either the intro episodes or the first episode of the Clone Wars, I think I called your turn of where I thought you were going to start giving more thumbs up than thumbs down, and I think we figured out I was pretty close.
You're pretty close on, I
weeks.
think. Yeah, yeah.
So
I remember you called out an episode, and it was pretty close on. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyways, anything else before we move on to our...
That's all I got. I think it's plug time, and we'll get out of here.
Right. Yeah. So if you want to reach out to us, thanks for listening, of course. You can email us at notthenerdspodcast@gmail.com. You can reach out. Kevin's in charge of our Twitter at nottthenerds. I run our Facebook at notthenerdspodcast. You can search us on those various social media platforms there. Give us a like and review anywhere you're listening to us. This is available on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn. We started putting the audio on YouTube as well, so if you comment or subscribe to us there, that would be much appreciated as well. We, as always, like to thank Kevin Warren, who put together the hero pose, as we call it, artwork of Kevin and myself. The cover art, I guess, for the podcast. You can reach out to him if you'd like him to put together anything for your projects as well. Reach out to him on Twitter at TheyCallMeKdub. We also like to thank Lindsay, who put together the jingle at the beginning and end of each episode. You can reach out to her at strangefantasymusic@gmail.com. So, yeah, that's everything, right?
That's everything.
I feel like that list keeps growing as we keep adding more stuff, so... Yeah, YouTube's the new endeavor for sure. So that's the one I've been toying around with.
If you happen to view this on YouTube, you got that like button, you got that notification button, you got that subscribe button. So
yeah,
make your mouse handy and click on those. So tell a friend.
Yeah. Anyways,
tell a friend what you think. Tell us what you think. Tell nobody what you think. I
right.
prefer the first two, not the last one. So,
anyways, thanks for listening, everybody. These have been not the nerds you were looking for.
I'll see you when Lorenzo steals my line. I don't know what to say, but I'll say next week, Brain Invaders.